Hello and welcome to My Xbox and Me, episode 521. I am one of your hosts, MC Fixer, alongside the one and only Too Fresh Crash. Can't hear you, Crash, you're muted. Great start to the podcast.
You're welcome.
And of course, the man on the ones and twos, it is Mr. Paul Despawn.
We all in a good mood today?
We're in a mood. I'm not going to say good. I'm not going to say bad. I'm just going to go with it. This is not our normal time of recording, and we are live on twitch.tv/MXAMofficial and, of course, youtube.com/myXboxandme. Big day, big news, hence why we're doing the podcast right now and live for absolutely everybody. There is a lot to get through, boys. Some really bad news, to be honest with you, when it comes to all things Xbox and Microsoft. Probably the biggest layoffs, I think, in Xbox history, probably in the gaming industry's history, to be honest with you, with a number of studios either closed, games cancelled, and people's jobs that have now just disappeared, to be honest with you. Where do we want to start? I guess the biggest news of them all right now is, of course, Perfect Dark. Perfect Dark is officially rumored. Oh no, I think they can't actually. I think we've got a quote here. So officially cancelled. Perfect Dark no longer will be a game that is coming out on Xbox platforms or other platforms that exist. Crash, I think we'll kick to you first. How are you feeling about that news in particular? First of all.
Disappointed because I feel like the last showing we got for Perfect Dark, which was not too long ago, it was last year. It didn't look bad. I liked the direction the game was going. Obviously wasn't ready to release with no surprise. Now it's never gonna be released. It's disappointing. It's disappointing news.
Yeah. Despawn, thoughts?
Yes. Really upset with this one because the last time we saw this, it looked really good. I was very excited by what we saw. So to hear that not only is the game not going to be released, but the entire studio is gone, is quite upsetting. Just as on the base level of just being a gamer who is excited for this game, it's upsetting to see that this isn't going to be a thing anymore.
I feel like, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I do feel like this studio were absolutely set up to fail from the very beginning. The initiative was the best of the industries taken from Naughty Dog and this studio and this studio and this studio, and they come out and they were like, this is our quadruple A studio. Remember when people were throwing that word around nonchalantly, and then they announced that they're working on Perfect Dark, and it's being worked on with who was it they were working on it with?
Crystal Dynamics.
Crystal Dynamics, thank you. And then we got the first show in, and I've always been quite skeptical of Perfect Dark as a franchise. It wasn't a franchise that I really cared about that deeply, but this was going to be the game that got me to care about Perfect Dark. And then we got the first show in, and we were like, oh, this actually conceptually looks pretty good. And then we know it's been through development hell. We know that things were not smooth sailing, but it's gone. It's dead.
Yeah.
It just doesn't exist anymore. And I think the thing that upsets me the most about this is coming off the back of Microsoft buying multiple studios, building a brand new studio, making maximum profits, and we'll get into all of it, I'm sure, but to just kill a game like this, it doesn't feel right. And it doesn't feel right that people are losing their jobs right now, and another studio has died again from Xbox. And I know it's not an Xbox issue, it's a Microsoft issue, but God.
To touch on that, when it's a Microsoft issue, and it's been a while for now, I feel like we can't say it's a Microsoft issue and not an Xbox issue. The same thing at this point. Every decision that's been happening for Xbox has been off the back of Microsoft to benefit Microsoft as a whole. So I think differentiating those two doesn't really work the way it used to when we were doing the podcast however long ago. I feel like it's not even that long ago that it was like there's a separation between Xbox and Microsoft, where it now feels like it's in unison. The branding is just different. It is the same exact thing.
I guess so. I guess yeah, I get it. I get why you feel that way. I do get why you feel that way. Mate, there's so much to talk about. There's so much to get into. Again, this is a reports that are just dropping on us now, but I'll go through a little bit of details. This comes from, I want to give a big shout out to Jason Schreier, Jez Corden, and many other reporters out there right now, because we are literally reading from their articles. So credit to all of them who are doing some fantastic reporting right now when it comes to all of this news being breaking. This one was taken from Jez Corden specifically, and I'll read it real quickly. Earlier, we reported exclusively that Perfect Dark was on the chopping block as Microsoft's latest round of cut-offs. We can now confirm the sad news. Today, we're getting to all of that stuff. The quote that came out of this is from Matt Booty, if I'm not mistaken. Here we go. Xbox Games head Matt Booty shared the following email, initially confirming Rare IP, Everwild, and Perfect Dark and other projects have been cancelled, which we'll get into those details in a minute. Where's the quote? We've made the decision to stop development of Perfect Dark and Everwild as wind down, that's what it says. Several unannounced projects, I guess that's wind down, several unannounced projects across our portfolio. As part of this, we are closing one of our studios, The Initiative. These decisions, along with other changes across our team, reflect a broader effort to adjust priorities and focus resources to set up our teams for greater success. Within a changing industry landscape, we did not make these choices lightly, as each project and team represents years of effort, imagination, and commitment. End quote. Kresh, what do you make of that?
The ending bit about these choices not coming like just sounds, and I know it's not meant to be, but it does sound like slapping those developers, because Xbox has had an incredibly strong year this year. Like, make that comment, and I do know like this game in particular has gone through its own struggles, so there might be like internal justifications for it. But from the outside looking in, like, I don't know if I frankly care justifications.
What do you mean by that?
What do you mean? What specifically?
You don't care.
Don't care. It's $1 trillion company at the end of the day. Microsoft is $1 trillion company. Like, you've had a successful year in gaming. So like the game plan being like, oh, well, our game plan says that we have to cut these jobs. Like, I don't care for that like sort of discussion, because Xbox has had a good year in gaming. Not like, what's the plan? You didn't tell us what the plan is. All you're saying is it's not in our plans. Doesn't tell me much. It sounds like a sleight of hand to me.
Do you not, maybe you disagree, maybe you agree, but do you not think we've been getting this sort of just word salad now for so many years? Again, I just want to, we'll get into Everwild. I guess let's talk about Everwild now. Everwild, also the next project, as we read in the quote, that has also been cancelled. There were some jokes made, obviously, about it before the Xbox showcase about it already being cancelled by you, Crash, saying there is no way we're going to see this game and it is going to be cancelled. You were on the money. It has 100% been cancelled. Where does Rare go from here?
I don't know. As far as we know, they're not working on anything other than like Sea of Thieves updates, if I'm not mistaken. So that leaves a huge question mark on what Rare's doing and where they'll go. Yeah, I mean,
can I read you something really quickly, right? Because this was taken from the Xbox Era podcast, and this was a quote from Phil Spencer when he was asked about the project that he was looking forward to the most. And it quote, "I was recently out at Rare. It's nice to see the team with Everwild and the progression that they're making." When asked on what reflected blah blah blah, every time I love Phil, and in terms of like I loved what he was meant to represent, which was the gamer who had become the bigwig, right? That is what I think. Back in the day, that's what I fell in love with. In Phil we trust and all that rubbish that at this point I don't trust nobody. Like every time we've heard him speak about games, it's always in this glass tinted, oh, things are going really well. Things are going really well. Blah 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 blah. Well, well. It can't have been that well because it's now dead.
Yeah, no, 100%. It is something we see. Not just like we'll say Phil, but I feel like that sort of maybe not to the degree of Phil, but I feel like that's the sentiment with Xbox a lot. They'll talk about these other properties and IPs they have that haven't come out or have just come out, and you could look at it with Hi-Fi Rush last year, where it gets all this rave talk about it after it comes out, and then the studio's shut down. And it's just, it feels like internally there has to be some dialogue. If we have to shut down a studio, if we have to cancel games, it's going to be these games, it's going to be the studio. You'd think you wouldn't mention these stuff to keep the hope for gamers excited, but it also keeps the studio and the people employed there like, oh, Bill likes our game, there's a better chance our game's going to keep going, and we're going to be given the chance to see this through.
For me, it feels like there's some kind of weird disconnect with Phil of like, there's two parts to Phil. Is the gamer that has come good and has got into that position where he's like, he can now just talk about games that he loves and enjoys. And then there's the other part where he's like, well, I've got to make 60 odd billion back for Microsoft real fast. And how am I going to do that? And like, I'm not like, in no way, shape or form do I feel bad for the billionaire CEO right now, who's like, you know, Phil Spencer, but like, he's in a hard position and I get that. But at the end of the day, it doesn't freaking matter. Thousands of people are losing their jobs today.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, I get you. I'm pretty sure Phil's not a billionaire, but we'll go with millionaire.
Yeah. Well, let's just say I don't think he's wanting for money right now.
No, I think he's okay. I think he's okay. I'm worried about Rare. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like this, Rare were a studio, obviously deep rooted in video game history with what they done, especially on the N64. For me, that's where my touchstone comes for them. And then they went through a very weird period after they were picked up by Xbox, support studio, yada yada yada. Then they brought out Sea of Thieves. That was obviously a huge successful hit for Xbox. Live service game, still getting updates today. But Everwild was meant to be the next big project for them.
Yeah.
Now, reports are still coming out, and we are not even halfway through what we're talking about here when it comes to all of the news and all of the topics to talk about when it comes to Xbox. But this is probably the studio I'm most worried about we're going to hear something from next when it comes to layoffs. Because they are one of the bigger Xbox studios when it comes to like size and staff, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and the thing is, you don't cancel a game and then not lose any of the staff who were working on the cancelled game. So, like, I think it's a case of when, not if, right now, about when we start hearing about these layoffs at Rare.
Yeah, I feel like the sad thing with Rare also is like one of the better case scenarios with the studio is probably goes back to being a support studio for some of the other studios Xbox. And I think that's disappointing, where Rare was finally having their chance to, well, say finally, it's been 10 years since Everwild was first announced. They've had their chance to like really show up, and they did with Sea of Thieves. That was a huge success, even when you see that release on PlayStation and do numbers over there as well. I think, I think Rare's in not a great position here. But I'd also look at, like, there's other games like what's happening with Contraband and stuff like that. There's a lot of places you can look at Xbox and say, we haven't heard anything in a very long time. What does that mean for the studio, and what does that mean for what they're doing?
What do you think it means? What does your gut say is going to happen with Rare?
I think it gets sized down. I think you get some layoffs there. I think probably a support studio to a degree, which is really like, I don't want to say that because my mind's going like, maybe they do Banjo, but it's like, are you going to give them, hey, you just spent 10 years, and this is me putting Microsoft's business cap on, you just spent 10 years trying to make Everwild, are we going to give you another bag to go and make a Banjo game that people have been dying for, but like people have been wanting the perfect dark game, and that just got canceled? Like what? Like I'm not sure what process to think of through Microsoft other than that business front that they seem to be very heavy on right now.
Yeah. It's such a sucky situation to be in when it comes to all these studios, and I don't know. I feel, again, I'm not responsible in any way, shape, or form, but I really hate the fact that we do an Xbox podcast in times like these, because like we celebrate the Call of Duty's being bought and the Bethesdas and all of these things that were exciting times, especially when you're caught up in the verses, the wanting to see Xbox versus PlayStation, PlayStation versus Nintendo, Nintendo versus Xbox, you kind of buy into it, especially being an Xbox podcast, especially like, and then you see this, and like to move on to like the next thing, which is the jobs. It looks like about 4% of jobs have been cut through Microsoft, roughly 9,100 across all departments, including gaming. The big one that has just come out is Turn 10, which is known for Forza Motorsport, which is one of Xbox's best video game franchises when it comes to critically acclaimed. It consistently 90s to 10, like 9s to 10s, and a couple of 8s in there throughout the years, but consistently puts out games of a high caliber. They have lost 50%, nearly 50% of their studio have been laid off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The layoffs are where I got into a really, when I first heard the news, and I told you boys when I joined I don't know how much longer I can do an Xbox podcast. And that is a very like, when I first heard the news, I was like, I'm not doing the podcast anymore. That was the first thought that went through my head. And then I'm like, I'm not going to be that drastic. Who knows? My feelings might change slightly in like a week or two once I've had more time to process it. So don't take anything I say right now as sort of law with where my mind state was. But another thought that went into my head is like, I don't know if I want to support Xbox in any sort of way. I don't know if I want to get Game Pass. I don't know if I love Gears of War and I love Killer Instinct. I love both those franchises to death. I don't know if like E-Day comes out, they announce a new Killer Instinct. I don't know if I even want to talk about those things, let alone play them at this point. Because supporting Xbox, what? It's still
raw. It's still raw. Yeah, it's still raw. I get it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But it's sort of a case of like, why do I want to support Xbox when they like supporting it doesn't mean that those studios and will still see funding and will still see job security and stuff like that. It's like, I'm going to make sure that the CEO and the boardroom's pockets are still fat. That's all I'm doing. And I don't know if that's something that I want to keep.
Yeah. No, I get it. Yeah, it's weird. I think you have to just take like from what you're saying. I get it totally. Right? Like, but there's a ton of. The issue is like I'm probably the most like nonchalant about certain issues compared to everybody else on the podcast, I would say, because again, everyone's evil. I hate to say it. Like anything that you support, watch, consume, something bad's happening. So at the end of the day, I feel like you can dive in nitty gritty enough to hate everything. I get where you're coming from with this again, because yeah, being an Xbox podcast, it's hard to come on here and celebrate anything when, especially when 9,000 people have just lost their jobs again.
Yeah. We talked about a studio not too long about possibly getting bought up. Was it the WB game IPs or whatever?
Yeah, Warner Brothers. Yeah.
Yeah, we were like, oh, it'd be cool if Xbox. And after this, I'm like, I don't want Xbox buying them. Like,
I don't want Xbox touching up the studio.
Yeah, it's like that's what was once like, oh, maybe it's not the worst case scenario. It's like, oh no, it's definitively like one of the worst scenarios you could get with it.
Yeah, it is and it isn't, right? Because the problem is you buy a company and you obviously do have to trim a lot of the quote unquote fat is the saying. I'm not saying that people's jobs are the fat. I'm just the saying. You have to trim a lot of stuff out. You don't need a bunch of HR. You don't need a bunch of PR. You don't need a bunch of when you've already got all of that in-house at other places. So you're going to see a lot of jobs go when companies buy up things. It's the developers that are affecting me the most, I think, right now. Is Motorsport, and I see Stead being in chat saying that the fans didn't love the last two Motorsports, but they still reviewed quite well in comparison to what Xbox games as a whole have reviewed. They reviewed quite well. They've had microtransaction issues which they've had to go through and fix, and a bunch of different stuff. But they were still to a high caliber where they were considered one of the best racing sim games out there.
Yep.
And how is it that you can keep on producing high caliber games and you still get fired?
Well,
laid off, sacked, whatever you want to call it.
Well, Crash called it earlier. It's like there's no like security anywhere across the board because we've seen it where they've had successes and they're still shutting studios with Tango and Hi-Fi Rush. It's like,
Yeah.
I think Crash has nailed it again, where he was like, I don't want Xbox touching another independent studio because there is no guarantee that that is a positive. In fact, history has now shown us time and time again that it is a net negative to any studio that joins Xbox now. Because while, yeah, they might have the bit of Xbox behind them, even if you do a great job, you're likely to get closed down 6 months later.
Is that Xbox's fault? Or is that just where we are as an industry at the moment? Because I do think there's a double, and they could be the change. I'm not giving them an out. I'm just making decent conversation. But is that just where we're at right now? You ramp up, you ramp down. You start again, you ramp up, you ramp down. Is that what our industry now looks like?
I think our industry's always looked like that to a degree. You've always
Sure.
you can go back and you'll find old articles of like, oh, this game's done making beta. There's a whole bunch of layoffs at that company. They don't need all those people anymore, right? For sure, that's always been a part of the industry. But I think Xbox in their position, regardless of they could be the change, whatever, they are a $1 trillion company. If you treat them like you treat any other gaming company, you're doing an injustice to the amount of money they have and the amount of money they make. So when Microsoft says Xbox has had a successful year, it is a successful year for $1 trillion company. It's not just a successful year for like what you'd find a Larian Studio saying is a successful year or something like that, a smaller company. It is a successful year for Microsoft. So to still find and be like, it doesn't fit in our plans, like sure, it might be the norm of it, but it's still like an atrocity within like the gaming space that it's Microsoft, the size they are, doing it at this rate.
Like, we've had the conversation before. We know, like, all hyperbole aside, you know my thoughts on like capitalism and the dangers of it. And this is precisely it. It's that constant requirement for growth to pay off shareholders at the detriment of everything else around it that really rubs me the wrong way. It's like, when I think about games and when I come to games, again, it's been mentioned before, it always is, it's an art form first, a business second in my eyes. And the fact that the business side of it is destroying the art form is what hurts me the most. I see it in chat. There's, I think Jojo said, it's the loss of talent that's the worst thing. Because there are people that will get laid off today that will not go back into the industry. They will find another industry to work in. And that means that the gaming industry has lost that talent forever. And on top of that, they will see these news stories. There'll be people in like high school or university that are maybe wanting to study games will see stories like today's, whereas like your favorite studio that you wanted to work on have just lost 50% of their team to, for budgeting reasons. Why would you want to get into that industry anymore? And there'll be people that could be the next that could be the next Kojima, let's for hyperbole's sake, who will look at this and be like, no, I'm good, I'll go do something else. And I think that hurts me the most, like deep down.
Not only that, this news obviously comes with obviously the conversation of new hardware being the next generation of Xbox, the Xbox handheld. Me, as a consumer at this point, why would I want to invest in this anymore? Like generally, we are the hardcore of hardcore. We sit down once a week. I would consider myself probably the hardcore of hardcore Xbox fan as I've been doing this for the longest amount of time now, right? In terms of like this podcast alone. And I just don't want to spend money with this company anymore. It has gotten to that point where I've just saw Mr. Matt Plays tweeted this, yeah? I know industry person. He does Xbox Defining Duke a podcast as well. He tweeted this. Since 2024, the initiatives closed down and Perfect Art were cancelled. Everwild, cancelled. New Zenimax Online IP, cancelled. 50% of Turn 10, gone. 10% of King, gone. Layoffs at Raven Software. Arcane Austin closed down. Games Works nearly lost forever. Alpha Dog Games closed down. Round Dog House Studios closed down. Blizzard's Odyssey cancelled. And there's more than that, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
There's more than that.
Yeah, I mean, there's Toys for Bob got let go. Luckily, they got to go be an independent studio, but still, it's just like, oh, man, it hurts.
But this is all on top of record profits.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's where you get, like, if Xbox was still the Xbox they were in the Xbox One generation, we talk about how bad it was. They weren't getting, like, people weren't buying consoles, people weren't buying games. If it was Xbox in those days, it'd be a completely different conversation. Like, Xbox is just, they can't sustain it, but they've been having a really good time. And I understand not being able to sustain it all, but it feels like it's a scattershot, and it feels like it's never ending. It's every few months. It's like Xbox lets go people, Xbox cancels a game, Xbox does something. It feels like it's almost a revolving door, talent being let go out of the industry.
Breaking news.
Mm-hmm.
Phil Spencer will allegedly retire as CEO after next gen console launch. I mean, we've all seen this one coming for the writing has been on the walls for years now.
Yeah.
When it comes to all things Phil Spencer. And we've seen the likes of Sarah Bond be pushed more to the forefront, Matt Booty be pushed more to the forefront as well. Yeah, there's a lot to Jesus Christ, there's a lot to talk about here, but it doesn't surprise us.
No. Yeah, no, absolutely not. I think even after Phil Spencer's, like, statement today, there's a part in it where he says, let me see if I can find it. We haven't even got to the memo yet. Yeah. Read it. We'll read it through, please. Do you want me to read the whole thing?
No, do the bit you was going to do, and then we'll go for it.
I recognize that these changes come at a time when we have more games and gaming hours than ever. Our platform, hardware, and game roadmap have never looked stronger. The success we're seeing currently is based on tough decisions we've made previously. We must make choices now for continued success in future years, and a key part of that strategy is the discipline to prioritize the strongest opportunity. I'll read this whole quote part. We will protect what is thriving and concentrate effort on areas with the greatest potential while delivering on the expectations the company has for our business. This focused approach means we can deliver exceptional games and experiences for players for generations to come. This to me sounds like Phil Spencer going, like, I want the target on me, because this is one of the most backhanded things you can say of essentially like, hey, we're having a fantastic year this year. We just got to let some of you guys go. And I would, like, we've seen Phil Spencer talk about stuff a lot, and I think Despawn mentioned it lightly a bit earlier. Like, I don't think these decisions, like, make Phil happy, but I also think that, like, Phil's in a position where he has to make them, and at the end of the day, he is the CEO of the company, and I think some blame to a degree has to fall on him. He can't be without fault.
No,
but I think with that quote in my mind, once I read that, I was like, oh, Phil's not going to be here for super long, because that sounds like Phil being like, it's like, put the target on me, or whatever, however you want to paint that sort of analogy.
Yeah, like he knew when writing that it was like, this is definitely painting a target. Not, and I don't mean that in a physical sense, but I mean, like, the vitriol that's going to come out online, it's painting that target on his back rather than painting it on Xbox's back.
I don't fully. I think it's painting it on his back instead of whoever steps in for him. So it'd be Sarah Bond, you'd assume is next. But I think it also paints that sort of imagery on Xbox, and in a weird way. And whether he meant it intentionally or not, I think that image is going to stick with Xbox of success for Xbox doesn't mean success for its employees. I think that's the sort of correlation you get with that. And I don't know if it was purposeful for him, and maybe I'm overreading into it, which is 100% possible, but that's sort of like more so what I got with it as well.
I'm just thinking about, like, the history. It's so crazy to me that we're sitting here talking about all of this Xbox news right now, right? And I remember when Phil got put into the job and how excited I was. I remember when backwards compatibility came and how excited I was.
Yep.
I remember when we were buying studios. I say we, when they were buying studios, and how excited I was. And to now sit here and just feel quite deflated. and feel like, what do you have to do nowadays? What do you have to do to be successful in the games industry?
I mean, there's no
Because
clear-cut answer
making
anymore.
money, well, like making money means nothing.
Mhm.
Like when you work for a company like Microsoft, making money does nothing. It doesn't give you job security. So you can make great games, and it means nothing. You can make record profits, and it means nothing. Like what? Well, where are we in the world at this point? Like I don't understand. And if this is how I'm feeling, some idiot on the internet that talks about video games, imagine the people that have given up hours of their life working overtime and because again, we sometimes I think we forget that like video games is an art form, right? It's a passion. People are passionate about this art and what they're creating and all of that good stuff, right? Like people have been working on Perfect Dark 8 9 years. Perfect Dark 5 6 7 8 years, and it's just gone. Someone has come along and just gone, yeah, no, that's done.
Mhm.
No one's gonna see it. So you've got no credits for the work that you've done to even move on with. Like you're now gonna go from the team that got cancelled to the team that put out a decent game, even if it was decent. Like whether or not it was like a 7 or an 8 or a 6, 7, 8, let's say hypothetically, right? Like at least that gets gets you on the resume of I finished a project from start to finish and released the game. So then I can take that and work somewhere else if it goes wrong. It's not even like these games come out. Like how bad must Perfect Dark have been? Like the shape of it to have not even seen the light of day.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know like what it is. Like we saw a bit of it, but like was that all fake smoke and mirrors that we saw and none of it was like really actually the game?
Slices.
Yeah.
It's very easy to, well, not very easy, but it's in comparison to when you're building an entire video game, it's easy to build this corridor. We need this for E3 demo. We've seen it time and time again. Like you watch these documentaries on game studios, like we need the E3 demo. Okay, cool. Bomb. Like, yeah. Mad.
Just more breaking news. Eldozo, is that confirmed? Apparently there were rumors that the Zenimax Online president has stepped down.
Jesus.
Which again, we haven't really touched on that, but yeah, like Zenimax will work the people behind, the Elder Scrolls Online, or they cancelled their latest MMORPG.
Yeah.
So
that one sucks also because for the people who play Elder Scrolls Online, it's reportedly like a really good MMO as far as MMOs are concerned. So not being able to fully see the vision of whatever would be not a sequel, but like sort of following like what they learned from that, never seeing that the light of day kind of sucks as well.
Yeah.
I guess a bit of positive news to add in here. Again, this is all just breaking news. I'm literally scrolling Twitter when I see all this. Xbox apparently have about 40 projects in active development. Everything that was shown at the Xbox showcase, none of that has been affected at all.
Okay.
So, whether you want a glass half full type of person, like if you, I understand the negative of what is happening, but I just want to give a little bit of positive out there as well in terms of if you saw something at the Xbox showcase that excited you, Clockwork, Revolution, and things of that nature, those projects are still fine.
Okay.
Yeah,
at the moment.
Didn't see at the Xbox showcase.
I was gonna say I do want to point out after the Xbox showcase was like Xbox didn't show a lot of things this year that they've shown before.
Well, yeah, we all had that conversation, didn't we? In terms of
that's what I'm saying.
Where was Fable? Not, we know Fable. Fable's clearly fine, but like, where was Fable? Where was? I think my biggest one here. Come on, State of Decay. Like there's rumors out there that it's absolutely fine. There's been no issues with State of Decay, but obviously someone like me, I'm like, where the hell? What's going on? I'm scared.
Where's my zombie game?
I'll be a little pessimistic here. Fine for now,
Oh yeah,
that's the case with everything. Another thing that I'm worried about that we haven't really touched on is, to a degree, Halo. That's kind of like up in the air of like where that'll go, right? And I think Halo will still be fine for now, especially if the rumors of the Halo remake and they're planning on next year, that being part of like their big push of like what Xbox is now, whatever. I wouldn't be surprised if Halo is fine, but Halo is one of those legacy franchises that I feel like hasn't really performed the way they would have wanted it to in a while.
Yeah, I think Infinite didn't really land with anyone at the time. They had issues. We saw like obviously the was it the Craig incident with the really bad graphics on
Oh, yeah.
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 And then when it came out it was fine. And now they've gone to the switch to Unreal, and like, do we think that that's gonna be the saving grace for it, or like again, obviously the rumored were after we came out of the last showcase was that they were talking about the 25th anniversary next year, and you know, they were kind of hinting that Halo would show up there. But will it? And if it does it matter?
Knows. You could see anything from Xbox and it never see the light of day.
Mm-hmm.
So anything Xbox does doesn't necessarily matter if it's not Game Pass and a game coming to Game Pass or something along those lines.
Yeah, I mean, we've joked about it enough times, but like we keep saying, oh, they're going to become the next Sega and just become a publisher. It's like, I don't even know if that's the case now. I feel like they're going to be the Game Pass machine and just rely
Well, that's
on
what they are. That's what they've been.
Yeah, but to the detriment of their own studios. I mean, like,
Why does it matter when you can just keep publishing, when you can keep getting these deals with third parties
Yeah.
and enough to? Netflix don't only make Netflix shows. They
Yeah.
built a look
Yeah,
at
no.
look at Netflix and look at what they've done. Right, they have every now and then they have a Squid Games that comes out. Whether or not you like Squid Games or not, it generates people watching it. And I know games are different because of the time investment and things of that nature, but you only need one to hit for it to be majorly profitable in video games, right? So
There's a slight difference with this in that you don't need Game Pass. You could always just buy the game. Whereas like with a lot of Netflix TV shows, you can't really, unless you're pirating the games, there's not really a workaround to, or not the games, the TV shows, not really a workaround to watching the forms.
Honestly, generally, when I'm sitting here just scrolling just to keep seeing news, and it's just so awful right now. Just seeing, I'm literally just seeing, I lost my job. Yeah, I lost my job. Bum, 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 bum. And it's just like, God, what do we even talk about at this point? I'm like, well, God. All right, what haven't we spoke about? I guess let's talk about Zenimax. The big breaking news, obviously, there was Zenimax Online Studios, maker of Elder Scrolls, has had their project cancelled. Which again really sucks for me because again I've always liked the look of Elder Scrolls Online, but I was never an Elder Scrolls fan.
Yeah.
And obviously that game's still going how many years? And this project apparently was in development since 2018. So another big project that has been cancelled. Any feelings at all, boys?
It's just so we've talked about it briefly in the fact that Elder Scrolls Online was like at this point is a success story. Like,
yes,
it's been going on from strength to strength. I think they had the Gold Road like 2 years ago, which was like a huge expansion for the game. They keep adding in new areas from the world of Elder Scrolls into the game, and it seems to be going from strength to strength. And the idea of them making another RPG in a different IP, because like you, Elder Scrolls never really grabbed me. I was more on the other side of the camp with the like between Elder Scrolls and Fallout. I was always more Fallout, but still, like the idea of them doing something with a new IP interested me more than anything else, because I always want a game I could just sink my teeth into, and an MMO is always perfect for that. And the fact that we're never going to get that now is just, man, like again, it's just like so heartbreaking. This entire day has been heartbreaking.
Yep. Yeah,
Great.
to work on a game for 7 years and then have it canceled before people can even like see it and like judge if they if it was something they would have liked or not, just sort of act in the background.
That's the thing that upsets me the most as well. It's the fact that the choice of whether it would have been a success or not isn't left to the people that would have made it a success or not. It's left to a couple of like high-end executives to be like, I don't think this is good enough.
I mean, yeah.
Like, let's put it, let me put it this way.
I can just see it though, can't you? You can see it. I don't think this is gonna. But it's not. By the way, you're wrong. Let me land.
Go on.
You're wrong in what you just said. Not. This is not good enough. This is not going to generate enough money. Not. This is not going to generate money.
Yeah.
This is not going to generate enough money.
Well, when I say good enough, go on.
Yeah, a lot of those comments would also be from people who might not even really be into gaming as well, that are just here for the profit margin and no other reason. And that's also like another hit in that as well.
Yeah, it's the shareholders who never play a game and they just want to see their little numbers go up. But yeah, I mean, here's what I was going to say is, think back in the day. Imagine if Mojang were started as an Xbox studio and they showed a demo of this little block game that you just build houses in. You know, one of the biggest selling games. That's what I'm saying. It's the lack of opportunity for something to shine.
A lot of studios would probably have axed it.
100%. No, you're not incorrect, but it's just...
And that, I think it's that not giving things chance to shine. It's just like, there are so many missed opportunities of a game being a breakout hit because, you know, it doesn't tick the right amount of boxes that you've pre-assigned to your new games.
Yeah, I tweeted that today, especially when this was just bubbling before we got all of the news. But I tweeted that, why do I feel like we're about to enter the film era in the games industry? It's going to be sequels, prequels, and games based on successful IP. It makes me sad. And I generally feel like that is where we're headed. And again, specifically from Xbox, I know you use like E-Day for that. It's not just Xbox, but I think I think in the AAA space, that tweet is correct.
Yeah, I think we've already seen that sort of shift happen, right? We've seen sequels, how many remasters and remakes come out. We've sort of seen that transition. I think as an Xbox front, I do think you see more of that for sure. We've also seen IP sort of come back into gaming in a very prominent way, not always successful, but definitely there, similar to like the PS2 era IP days where you'd see games come out all the time, be it good, bad, or horrible. So I think you see that trend continue. I think that.
Yeah. God. Yeah. What else is there to talk about? What have I missed? I feel like I've missed something on this big list of things to talk about, Despawn. Anything? Oh, right. Call of Duty. Raven Software. Raven Software have also been hit with layoffs. We don't know how many yet. And again, the news is still breaking on all of this. But yeah.
What's the last game Raven Software worked?
Black Ops 6.
Support.
Black Ops 6.
Oh no, you're right. No, we had
they
this conversation. You're right.
Yeah, they were like joint developers with Treyarch.
Yeah, that's got to be rough as well.
Yeah, you've had like one of the biggest. Like, I remember like Black Ops 6 was like a hit. Like, there's no two ways about it. Like, it got some of the best reviews for ages for a Call of Duty campaign, and the multiplayer as well was a ton of fun. Whatever you want to say about Warzone, that's on you. But like, you know, they seem to be doing the right things by bringing back all maps and stuff like that. So it was one of the better like Call of Duties in a long time, and that's not enough to save you. Possibly the biggest like, you know, fair weather franchise. Like everyone knows Call of Duty.
Yeah, I do wonder, and you might know this better, Fix. Are you up on like what studios the Call of Duty fans really like resonate with? No,
not anymore.
I wonder if they're one of the studios that we're on the lower end of resonation with fans, and maybe Xbox is going a different approach with Call of Duty, where they're like, we want to make less Call of Duties, even though that not the case. They're definitely going to be. I think we know that they're probably going to want to put out as many Call of Duties because of the money it generates, whether quality or anything aside, they'll just sell. That situation really does suck, which is, I feel like, the sentiment with every single story for today.
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely. All of this. This wasn't going to be you don't do an emergency episode for positive news usually.
Yeah.
Can't lie to you guys.
I think
Yeah,
that's it. The big takeaway is there's like none of the studios that have been hit seem to be the ones that were like faltering in any way.
What do you mean?
Like I didn't
So
feel
it's-
like the writing was on the wall for anything. Like Turn 10, like the key holders for one of the biggest franchises that Xbox have in Forza Motorsport. You know, you've got Rare. It's fucking Rare.
Yeah.
And then just every Raven Software coming off the back of Call of Duty. We got King on the side of the mobile platform. Like Candy Crush is like one of the biggest mobile games ever. It's just,
Is it going down?
who knows? Like, can't be
That's
going
a
down
possibility.
that much, but
I
still.
you know what I will
That's
say.
kind of what I'm taking
my-
away from a lot of this.
My parents really big Candy Crush players. I think the last time I saw my mom play a game on her phone, it was not Candy Crush.
Confirmed.
I don't know if that speaks to
Instead,
any,
that's why
Candy Crush Dead.
Gretchen's
any
mom
metric of
was a
anything,
whale, and she was loving the game.
No,
and
she did
sorry.
the I changed your time on the phone thing to
Oh,
get more lives.
Oh, so she's a
your
pro
mom's
gamer.
she's a pro. I was gonna say she's
Yeah,
a pro. Get into some Animal Crossing. You can do that in that game as well. Damn.
She can
No,
suck my
yeah.
gun now.
I honestly, and like to again, I do think it's a conversation that we are going to have here at MXAM. Do we still do an Xbox podcast? It's been a conversation we've had for a really. I know that the majority of the audience would have come into this podcast either through Unlocked or being a kind of funny fan back in the day, or whatever the way you came in, especially probably 99% of the time was I was looking for an Xbox podcast, and now we're here. I don't know where this leaves us. It doesn't mean you're not going to get a podcast next week, but I do think for long-term thinking, I don't know where this leaves us as an Xbox podcast, because it is becoming increasingly harder and harder and harder to just talk about Xbox when you feel a type of way every time you talk about them. I've been notoriously negative on Xbox probably for the last 2 years.
Yeah. And I've always come into doing these kind of podcasts as like, I want to look at the positive stuff that happens in the world of video games. And it feels like, I mean, I also want to talk about the realism of it all as well, but it feels like it is so hard to, have a impartial view on a company and support them with a podcast. Not even support is the right word, but like, be a voice in the community around this franchise and this brand when they don't show any love or affection for the studios that we love.
Yeah. I mean, you know what I've been waiting for games. We know what I've been just still coming, still sitting here waiting for Fable, still sitting here waiting for State of Decay, still sitting here waiting for a new Gears. I know, just imagine Gears E-Day wasn't announced.
Yeah, it's like what's happening with Gears? Where's Gears? Is Gears dead? Is Gears gone? Yeah,
we would have been in big trouble. Like generally, big trouble.
Mind you, I don't think that conversation is necessarily fully eradicated as of yet until E-Day's completely out. I'm going to be 100% honest.
I say we've not seen actual gameplay yet.
Yeah.
We never saw actual gameplay from Everwild.
I don't think he's going to counter this by like whatever he's going to say, but the fact is what we've seen from Xbox is you can even see gameplay and it doesn't matter until the moment that they're like, we don't want to make this.
Yeah. They closed their biggest studio this week. Like they closed the initiative. Their quadruple A studio making one of their biggest games for a well-known franchise.
Mind you, the perception for that studio wasn't even from the studio itself. It was somebody at Xbox talking about the studio, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah, for sure. But like they were pitched as like the next big studio for Xbox, and they went, "No, we don't need a big studio.
Yeah,
we don't need a good game. We don't need that."
Again, a good game means nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's proven. A good game means nothing now. That's my biggest takeaway from all of this.
Yeah.
A good game means absolutely nothing. But I feel like that's across the board now.
No, 100%. I fully
yeah.
agree with that.
And
Um,
yeah,
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
more prevalent right now with Xbox because they did so much buying of studios. Like, I know other
Hey.
PlayStation have done it as well, but like not to this extent.
Yeah.
But
I think see what's happening right now.
you think it's coming?
I think it's coming. I think it's because it has to. Like, but look, Bungie can't. If Marathon is
Yeah.
the way it is, we've seen what happened with. Let's not pretend that Concord, a game that and this is where maybe you give Xbox a little bit of credit, a little bit. At least they cancelled the games before they came out.
No,
PlayStation,
Redfall. You had Redfall. You had what was the game that Ninja Theory made out for? Ninja Theory put out forever
Bleeding
ago.
Edge.
It got canceled. Yeah,
Bleeding Edge.
Bleeding Edge is just Concord. Like, let's.
on a much smaller scale.
Yeah,
on a
I mean,
much
But it's a much smaller
scale
scale because Xbox at the time was smaller.
Yeah, I mean, I'll also give them the benefit.
That was
of
the
doubt.
Xbox One days.
Just to clarify, Bleeding Edge was already in development before the studio got purchased, so they just finished it and put it out.
For sure, but it's still like it. With what Fix is saying, Xbox would have seen that and canceled it before it came out. And you would have had the same thing with Redfall, which they didn't do, right? So I think giving them the credit of that foresight, I don't think they deserve credit of that foresight.
I don't think any. I'm going to be honest right now. I don't think any studio or any like brand deserves credit because
for sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna. It's get to that point. Like, or I was very much like I'm doughy eyed when it comes to video games. It's like, oh, like I'll hope for the best. It's like right now I'm judging everyone on their actions going forward because like their actions are bloody awful.
Yep. I guess the one thing to talk about is Blade. We know nothing at the moment. There's a few reports out there that it's fine, from what I'm seeing on Twitter at the moment. But yeah, and that's obviously Arcane that are working on that. Arcane Leon.
Yeah.
That are working on that. But yeah, so at the moment, currently, from what the interwebs are telling me, it's fine.
Yeah. And the issue is like I was very much like initially my first thought was like, it's a Blade game made by Arcane. It's definitely going to be safe. It's going to be fine. And then I think we talked about it on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, as like, or in fact maybe a month or two ago, Wonder Woman got cancelled by WB Games. It's like one of the like using the Nemesis system, one of the best systems in video games. It's like if that can't survive, I don't know if Blade's safe at all.
Yeah.
I think anything's safe.
No.
Yeah, no, 100%. I don't think anything's safe. And Blade will be an interesting situation because even if it was canceled, I'd assume it's not fully on Microsoft alone to announce or talk about Blade because they are in partnership with Marvel and Disney for that game. So I don't know if there's sort of like, I'd assume there's hoops you have to go through for announcing something like that being canceled as well.
Yeah, there'll be contracts in place. There's like I think we talked about it before we were live about like things we wanted to include and what we thought might be in these announcements. And it's like Blade was mentioned, and it was very much that case of it was like I assume that it's not in these announcements for one of two reasons: either A, it is safe, or B, they've got to have that conversation with Marvel before they can announce anything.
Yep. It could also be a case of like it's safe and they're still not allowed to make a public statement about Blade. Because they need to go through Marvel
red
as
tape,
well.
right? The amount of red tape they probably have to go through to say anything. With the little I've worked with big companies like Disney and stuff like that, Nintendo, like you know how much red tape there is to just put out a tweet. So yeah, I imagine cancel a game, you can't just announce that willy-nilly when you want to. So yeah, boys, I don't really have anything else to add, to be honest with you. Quite a negative episode, unfortunately, but definitely an important one that I feel like we needed to have on the show as quickly as humanly possible. Maybe we'll do another episode, episode 522. This can be a little bit more just question and answers from the audience, because I'm sure they have a questions and thoughts about all of this, and on top of that, what we've been playing, and just a little catch up. Maybe see how we feel when we're not fresh, because I do think it's important. I think it's a multitude of things, right? Like I remember when I was fresh when they announced. We know my visceral reaction to that compared to where I was at a week after, a month after, and beyond. And that's why I don't want to make any rash decisions when it comes to my Xbox and Me, the podcast. Because, again, and I do think an Xbox podcast can survive out there in this world who does sort of hold a magnifying glass up to them a little bit more and have conversations that need to be had that aren't always positive. Now, in the same breath, we could just do that on a different platform where we're still talking about everything. So, who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Despawn, anything to add before we get out of here?
Go support indie developers. They're going to be the lifeblood of our...
more than anything.
Yeah, they're going to be the lifeblood of our art form that we love.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that statement. I do not disagree with that statement. Crash?
I'm not gonna say what I was gonna say.
Say the second thing you think.
I'm with Despawn. Support the developers. I was gonna, support the developers. They deserve all your support. If you see any tweets or something like that, and you're on social media platforms about people looking for jobs, just retweet them and give like a little bit more eyes on those. Help feed them into the algorithm a little bit.
For sure.
Yep, agreed. And yeah, on the same thoughts, go out to every single developer out there, or anyone who works in the video games industry right now, because as someone who works in / adjacent to, I know that feeling of the weight that can be on you, because this won't just affect Xbox, because people will look like, if that can happen at Xbox, that can happen anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So my thoughts go out to everybody. Big shout out to everyone who is watching live over the channel, and of course over on the Twitch. If you're watching live on YouTube, do me a favor, please like this video, and of course drop a comment once the video has gone off live. If you're over on Twitch, hit that follow button. Appreciate every single one of you who do support this podcast, do support what me and the boys are doing. Happy to say we have recorded our first episode of Ranking Every, and that will be out very, very soon. It is with the editor, so a lot more to come from that. We have more things that we owe you guys. That is all in the works, thankfully. Matt's away for a couple of weeks, hence why this week, but we will keep bringing you content whether or not you stick around or not. We'll still be doing it. Until next time, we'll love you, leave you, see you guys.